This is the risk-reward calculation everyone needs to understand. If you steal land from a widow, she's going to get it back and you're going to go to jail. Redeem's mission is to protect the homes and land of some of the world's most vulnerable. For example, I got to meet Olivia about a year ago. Olivia was 29 years old when her husband died. She had a little daughter at home, and she was pregnant with their son. After the funeral, Olivia's brother-in-law, so her husband's brother, told her that all of the land belonged to him and that she was going to have to leave. Lydia refused for all the reasons that you would think. So her brother cut down all of her crops. He cut down all the bananas, all the cassava. He uprooted all the potatoes, and then went into the community and told everybody in the community that she had cheated on his brother and that that little boy inside of her was a bastard and that they needed to drive her out of the community for being unfaithful. Olivia went to the local clan leaders, so the heads of the family, and they actually were sympathetic. They knew that that wasn't true, and so they went and talked to him. And he responded by coming back to her house, kicking in the door, and attacking her with a machete. And he told her that that land belonged to him, and that if she didn't leave, he was going to cut her open, cut the bastard out of her, and watch her bleed to death. And so Olivia went to the police, and the police told her, hey, that sounds like a family matter, not a police matter. And you probably better get that settled before it gets worse. In Uganda and in Zambia, as we're looking to expand into there, what you find is that you find there are laws on the books that ostensibly protect the land, but they're just absolutely not being enforced. And there's lots of reasons as to why they might not be. Law enforcement lacks resources. You know, when we get involved in a case, we might have to put gas in the police car to make sure that it can get out there. Also, widows and orphans, they can't pay the bribe. They don't have the social influence, and they're often considered second class, or in some cases, they're considered property themselves. For as long as there have been widows and orphans have been forgotten and set to the side. So her brother, he found out she'd gone to the police, and he came back with the machete. And the only reason that Olivia survived was that a neighbor heard her screaming and distracted him long enough that she could grab her daughter and run. And she had to leave everything. She left everything that she owned. The only things that they had for her and her daughter were the clothes that they were wearing. And so for the next couple of years, what they had to do, they begged. They begged for food. They begged for shelter. A member of a local church let them live in kind of a little outbuilding, like that you'd put chickens in. And they slept on the dirt floor. And that's when we found them, was that a member of that church told another person in the police station, and that police officer reported the case to us. And so our investigators came by, our social workers came by and got to know her. They gave her food to eat, mattress to sleep on, helped her get started with a little roadside stand where she could sell some ground nuts to make enough money to help feed her family while we investigated her case. And so what we do at Redeem is we deploy teams of local justice professionals to intervene directly on their behalf. Those teams partner with local law enforcement authorities, local police, local prosecutors, the local court system, to intervene directly in individual land theft cases with a goal of restoring that family back to their home, to actually arrest and prosecute the men that have committed those crimes against them, to rehabilitate the survivors so that they are back into a position of safety and strength, and then to broadcast the results of that case. Not so people know how great Redeem is, but so that anybody that considers stealing land from a widow or an orphan knows that they are not going to get away with it and there are going to be significant consequences for it. Our attorneys worked with the local police to build out that investigative file and submit it to the resident state attorney. The investigators found that Olivia was actually the lawful owner of that home, and that her brother-in-law had committed crimes of criminal trespass, assault, and threatening violence, and were able to convict her brother-in-law of all of those crimes. And as part of the conviction, the court ordered her brother-in-law to vacate the property and reinstated Olivia as the rightful owner and possessor of that property. Our community liaison came in at that point, and we had a great big ribbon cutting ceremony. And we invited hundreds of people from the community and the local media to broadcast that result to the entire world that, hey, if you steal land from a widow, she's going to get it back. And you're going to go to jail. This is the risk-reward calculation everyone needs to understand. If you steal land from a widow, she's going to get it back and you're going to go to jail. And we do that, we intervene in those individual cases because those individual women and those individual children matter, right? They matter to God. And they should matter to every one of us. And so we want to intervene in those individual cases because we care about those individual women and children. We also know that by intervening in individual cases, we can change entire systems. We can create safety for thousands of women and children that never have to lose their home in the first place. When I met Olivia was actually months and months later when I got to visit her land. And she and her kids were actually bringing in their first harvest of corn since being back. And Olivia is this tiny little widow with just a massive amount of energy. And so I asked her about her land. I was kind of like, where does it begin? Where does it end? And she's wearing these great big gum boots, and she just takes off in a sprint all the way down to the river. And there's a boundary stone down there, and she stands by the boundary stone and she starts jumping up and down and waving her hands. And then she basically does jumping jacks all the way down the river to the next boundary stone, and then all the way down the river to the next boundary stone. And then she comes sprinting back. And she basically knocks me over with this massive hug. And she starts to tell me about where she's going to plant all of her crops, about where the bananas are going to go and where the cassava is going to go. And she tells me that the little business that our social workers helped her start had grown 6x since she moved back home. And then she told me about how both of her kids are back in school. And then she showed me the plot in the middle of her land where she's going to rebuild the home. And it was just this amazing picture of strength and resilience. And that's what we see in all of these women and children, is that they're not weak. They're not charity cases. They are strong, resilient women. And when you put them back on their land and make them secure in it, they build farms, they build homes, they build businesses, they send their kids to school. They do all of the things that all of these other charities would want to see happen and are investing in making happen, because they're not weak. They're strong, resilient, powerful women and children that are capable of amazing things if we just keep them safe.